Bright is a strange movie in that it presents a great basic concept but has absolutely no interest in presenting any of its ideas or themes in a convincing manner. It's a deadly serious movie that constantly trips over itself with terrible attempts at jokes that it thinks are witty. It's a movie that flashes its racial themes from the very start, only to abandon such things almost entirely about halfway through. And despite the ever-present fantasy elements of orcs, fairies, and elves, the movie never really does much with any of it. Greetings, Cinemaniacs. I'm Cinematico Magnifico of AmoralCrackpot.com, and welcome to the Nightly Chill. Directed by David Ayer and based on a screenplay by Max Landis, Bright feels as unoriginal as it is, because despite the genre mashup, the movie itself is little more than a by-the-numbers cop drama. Nick Jacoby, played here by Joel Edgerton, is a rookie police officer and a Tolkien-style orc treated by humans and elves as nothing more than some poor, violent creature, despite his efforts to rise above the stereotypes applied to his entire race for nearly 2,000 years. He's acclimated to whatever passes for general human culture. He does not act or talk like a stereotypical orc. He doesn't even partake in deep-rooted cultural traditions in the hopes of being better accepted by humans. But the police force, including his partner Daryl Ward, played here by Will Smith, want him gone. Not for anything he's done wrong, of course. Jacoby being an orc is simply bad enough. But by becoming a cop, he's also seen as a race traitor by other orcs, specifically those who live down to the same generic stereotypes usually associated with Black and Latino gangs in Los Angeles. This all eventually leads to a confrontation with some corrupt cops who will do anything to see Jacoby removed from his position on the force, including having his partner kill and frame him for a crime he didn't commit. But when Ward puts honor and pride above deep-rooted racism, he finds a target on his own back. And now he and Jacoby must evade capture while also trying to figure a way to clear their names. There's also something about a cult, an ancient prophecy, and a magic wand, but none of this really matters or amounts to much outside of two key scenes. And this really does summarize everything wrong with Bright. It's formulaic and uninterested in being interesting. The first half of the film is all about racism in American society by way of Los Angeles, and then the movie decides it'd rather focus on police corruption by way of cliché 80s action movies, and then in a few places instead becomes about some pointless ancient prophecy and other fantasy nonsense. In the end, the movie isn't about anything. There's no story, the characters are little more than placeholders playing out a generic plot with a fantasy twist. And its serious, weighty themes are just an excuse to provide a thin, pretentious veneer on a shallow cliché with nothing of value to say. But worst of all, the movie doesn't care. At best, the racism simply reinforces old fantasy tropes of elves being beautiful and good, orcs ugly and evil, and humans being somewhere in between. At worst, it's a lazy plot device. There's no attempt at commentary or playing with expectations. In fact, Jacoby and his struggle is hardly the focus here. Will Smith is front and center as a racist police officer who reluctantly becomes a little less racist as the movie drags on. The drama of the two police officers struggling to survive in Los Angeles with gangs, a cult, and the entire police department after them lacks any degree of tension. It never feels like our leads are in any real danger. Every scene feels like it's impatiently trying to rush to the next, and Jacoby and Ward never feel like they're bonding through any of it. And the movie's few action sequences are just as formulaic and unexciting. There's a bland car chase, a bland shootout at a nightclub, and a couple of brief, bland magical showdowns that exist just to remind us that we're watching a genre mashup. Now, the movie isn't hard to watch, and it's far from being the worst movie of 2017. It's not even the worst movie carrying the Netflix original brand. That said, Bright is an underwhelming, disappointing mess of a movie that completely squanders every idea and dollar it attempts to juggle. There is no nuance, no subtlety, and despite marketing to the contrary, this is not a blockbuster caliber experience. In fact, the movie doesn't even attempt to reach mockbuster levels of spectacle. Now, I'm sure there will be some misguided audience that will find enjoyment in the fact that this movie exists, but unless you're desperate for a lazy attempt to blend Training Day with Lord of the Rings, your time will be better spent elsewhere. Oddly enough, I think it's worth noting that had Ayer used movies like Lethal Weapon and Beverly Hills Cop as reference, rather than more serious fare, Bright might have actually stood a chance. Maybe. But, as it is, Bright is easily a no-chill. That's gonna do it for us tonight on the Nightly Chill. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow, and also be sure to leave me any questions, comments, suggestions for future reviews, and maybe even discuss today's movie at greater length. And as always, this video is brought to you in part by our viewers. If you'd like to learn how to support this and other projects, please visit amoralcrackpot.com or check the description below. But until next time, y'all need to make like a tree and get out of here.